The Bad Batch Season 3 Episode 5 is here, and the return was
a surprise, to be sure, but a welcome one.
Crosshair's return to the Bad Batch and the return to the planet Barton 4. From callbacks to Season 2 of The Bad Batch to callbacks to Season 1 of The Clone Wars, there is a lot that you might have missed in this 5th episode. So smash a like on this video and let's break this all down. Episode 5, The Return, starts off with Omega on the Marauder. And right away you can already tell that this episode is off to a great start. The lighting and the brightness already tells you right away that Omega is home. She wakes up to see her brothers Hunter and Wrecker as she tells them that it's the best sleep that she's gotten in a long time. She was of course captured by the Empire and stuck on Mount Tantus as a prisoner for over 150 days. But she asks where's Crosshair, and Crosshair is out there training. They're on the planet Pabu from Season 2, the safe haven for the Bad Batch, or at least it is for now. We've seen in the trailers for this 3rd season that the Empire will arrive on this island, so enjoy this while it lasts. We see Crosshair training with a blaster with the droid AZ. Here's of course the medical droid that was on Kamino with Omega. So I guess you might say one of the returns of this episode titled The Return is AZ. But Crosshair is clearly still struggling with his aim, and I still think this is going to be a big issue come the later half of this season. But these shaky hands are going to be a problem. Whatever happened to him on Mount Tantus with all of those experiments is not just going to go away overnight. But Omega tells him that he has to talk to Hunter. They have to iron all of this out. Crosshair had the chance to rejoin the Bad Batch multiple times throughout Season 1 and Season 2, and he didn't. He stayed with the Empire because he thought it was the right thing to do.
Good soldiers follow orders.
Crosshair's training is interrupted by them seeing a shuttle fly into Pabu, and it is Echo. The second return of the episode is Echo. All the remaining Bad Batch members, rest in peace Tech, are back together again at last. Echo is still working with Rex like he was in the last season to try to save their clone brothers. And of course Omega and Crosshair just escaped one of the most hidden Imperial bases in the galaxy with Mount Tantus. Not to mention that there are countless clones there being experimented on that Echo and Rex are going to want to save. They all sit around the table together and Omega tells Echo what was going on there. How they were using clones for testing and taking samples of their blood. She also mentions how there was a vault and she never got to see inside. She even mentions Emery, who she explains to be their clone sister, who also never got to go inside the vault. And this vault is Project Necromancer. It's the cloning efforts to try to get Palpatine to live forever, but I explain all of that in this video right here. But Omega shows the others that she kept this datapad, Nala Se's datapad, from their escape on Tantus. And this datapad could give them all the information that they need to not only find the base of Mount Tantus because they don't know how to get back, but also to figure out how many clones are really there and what the hell they're doing on this base. But their only way to access the information on this datapad is through an Imperial base, and Crosshair knows just the one. Hunter says, okay, me, Crosshair, and Echo will go to this base and complete the mission. And Omega's like, what? We just got back together. I'm not splitting up now. And Crosshair has to explain to Omega that Hunter's just worried about him, and after all, she's just a kid. To which Omega replies, I'm older than you guys, little brother, which is something that's not really talked about in the Bad Batch a lot. Omega is technically older than all the other members of the Bad Batch. She just doesn't have the accelerated aging gene that all the other clones had. She's an unaltered clone of Jango Fett, just like Boba Fett, which could lead to a very cool interaction between Omega and Boba Fett somewhere down the line. But the Bad Batch leave Pabu and go to the planet Barton 4. Now this is from the episode The Outpost in Season 2 of the Bad Batch, where Crosshair is sent by the Empire to go help out this outpost on the planet. This planet is a very hostile one, covered in snow and ice, but also has very dangerous creatures on it. The base is surrounded by sensors that keep the monsters out. Now in Season 2 on this outpost, we see Crosshair and Mayday go on a mission outside of the sensors to take out the raiders. These raiders have been stealing from the Imperial outpost and they need to be taken care of. Crosshair and Mayday complete their mission and kill all the raiders, but they are buried alive by an avalanche. Mayday sacrifices himself to push Crosshair out of the way of the avalanche so that he will survive. Mayday later dies at the feet of Crosshair in front of the Imperial Lieutenant Nolan, who doesn't give them any medical attention. This is when Crosshair flips a switch and realizes that the Empire doesn't care about them at all, and he shoots Lieutenant Nolan, killing him. And this leads to Crosshair being captured by the Empire and taken to Mount Tantus. But Barton 4 in this 3rd season looks a lot different. It's been covered in snow and ice, and it's been abandoned. When they land on the planet, we see Crosshair finally sporting his iconic armor from the first season again when he looks up to see the same ice vulture that he was looking at right after he killed Lieutenant Nolan in season 2. This is when Batcher starts to bark at something off in the distance. Hunter says it's probably just those transmitters surrounding the base, and Crosshair explains to them that those transmitters are keeping the raiders out. When Hunter asks, shouldn't you have warned us about these raiders? Crosshair says no, because they don't exist anymore, because he killed them. They get to the front door of the base and it's been covered in snow, so they have to dig their way in, where they realize that this base has really been abandoned. There's nobody left, and the only thing that all the energy is being put towards has all been directed towards those sensors outside to keep everything out. And in order for them to draw enough power to read what's on the data pad, they will have to turn the sensors off. Crosshair wanders off where he finds Mayday's helmet, the clone that saved his life and sacrificed his own at this outpost in season 2. This episode gives a lot to the character of Crosshair, and this actually shows Hunter from afar that Crosshair really did care about these clones that died here. But when they turn the sensors off to give enough energy for the data pad, Crosshair and Hunter go outside to make sure everything is safe. Hunter says there's something that you aren't telling us, Crosshair, and we need to know. Hunter asks what happened, and Crosshair tells him, I killed an Imperial officer. He says he betrayed the Empire after they betrayed him. And then he says, don't pretend that this is all about me. You're just mad because I'm the one who saved Omega from Mount Tantus and not you. And as it looks like they're about to fight, they get interrupted by a giant ice worm. This worm looks very similar to the worm from Dune, but only in ice form. It also looks very similar to the worm from the first season of the Clone Wars, the episode entitled Rookies, which is also a callback for Echo, as Echo and Fives were two of the clones that were in that episode. They come into contact with very similar looking worms called Rishi eels. So this isn't just a callback to the Crate Dragon or a parallel to Dune. It's also something from Echo's past a long time ago, from the first season of the Clone Wars. But Hunter and Crosshair run back inside, where they got all of the information that they will from the datapad. Echo says that it's mostly just medical reports, because it's obviously Nala Se's datapad, so it's probably just going to be medical reports. But it does tell them that there's a lot more clones on Mount Tantus than they ever first thought. They get back inside and realize that they're going to have to turn the sensors back on, but they have to get this giant ice worm outside the sensors before they turn it back on, or they'll be trapped inside with it. So Hunter and Crosshair will go out as bait to draw this worm outside of the sensors, where Wrecker gets to the back of the facility where they can turn on all the power. A very cool action sequence with them being chased by this ice worm leads to, of course, them succeeding with getting the sensors back on and getting this ice worm beyond the sensors. This mission allowed us to see Crosshair and Hunter bury the hatchet and become brothers yet again. And the episode ends with a conversation between Crosshair and Hunter, where Crosshair says that I've done things, that he's made mistakes working for the Empire for all that time. And Hunter responds with, I have regrets too, Crosshair, we all do. But there just might be hope for us yet. As Crosshair looks up to again see the ice vulture above him. A poetic end to the planet Barton 4. Now I must say, this episode was not what I expected. I thought the title, The Return, was going to be referring to Asajj Ventress, or Cad Bane, or Fennec Shand, as we see all three of them in the trailer for the show. But no. The return was the return to Pabu, the return to Barton 4 for Crosshair, the return of Crosshair to the Bad Batch. There's many different meanings to this title, but none of them were Asajj Ventress. But that wasn't a bad thing. This episode was extremely important to the character arc and character development of Crosshair and Hunter. And I still think that the two of them will both die by the end of this season. And all of this so-called filler will mean so much more when their characters have come to an end. But I rank this episode a 7.5 out of 10. I think it's very on track with last week's episode between Crosshair and Omega and their character arc together, but it sets up a very bright future for this third and final season. But tell me what you rank this episode out of 10 in the comment section below. But there's a lot more questions than answers when it comes to this third season, and one of the biggest ones is, who is this clone assassin? I think it's Commander Cody, but I explain all of that in this video right here.